Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you for joining us today. We seek the kind blessings and mercy of Shri Krishna Balaram, Shri Radha Madhav, Shri Gauranitai, Shri Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj, the assembled Vaishnavas, so that continue with the 11th canto. We're on chapter 6 today.
Do you want me to do that?
Oh yes, please. Yes, go for it. Go for it. I'll just stop this thing. So this is text number 45 of chapter 6. Shaya Shanatan Snana Snana Kridashana Dishu Katham Tvam Priyam Atmanam Vayam Bhaktas Tyajime Jemahi. My dear Lord, you are the Supreme Soul, and thus you are most dear to us. We are your devotees, and how can we possibly reject you or live without you even for a moment? Whether we're lying down, sitting, walking, standing, bathing, enjoying recreation, eating, or doing anything else, we constantly engage in your service. It's a very, very sweet verse. Let's see the context of that. This chapter is entitled Yadu Dynasty Retires to Prabhash, and describes how Brahma and the other demigods, after offering prayers to Lord Krishna, requested the Lord to return to his own abode, and how Uddhav, anticipating separation from the Supreme Lord, was distressed and prayed to Lord Sri Krishna that he might accompany him on his return to that abode. So the devatas, they visit Krishna in Dwarka, desiring to see Sri Krishna in his human-like form, which enchants all the worlds, the Gandharvas, Apsaras, Nagas, Rishis, Pitas, Vidyadharas, Kiniras, and the other demigods, all headed by Brahma, Shiva, and Indra, arrived at the city of Dwarka, covering the body of Krishna with flower garlands from the Nandan gardens of heaven. They praised him with statements about his transcendental power and qualities. There's a real great fortune for these demigods. Advanced mystic yogis striving for liberation from the severe bondage of material work meditate with great devotion upon your lotus feet within their hearts. As the supreme superintendent of Maya, that's Krishna, you appear to be situated in the interaction of the modes of nature. So, is he subjected to the modes of nature? However, you are never affected by material activities. In fact, you are directly engaged in your eternal spiritual bliss. And thus, you cannot be accused by any material infection. Those whose consciousness is polluted by illusion cannot purify themselves merely by ordinary worship, study of the Vedas, charity, austerity, and ritual activities. Our Lord, those pure souls who have developed a powerful transcendental faith in your glories, achieve a purified state of existence that can never be attained by those lacking such faith. Very powerful statements here. Your self-controlled devotees, desiring to cross beyond the material kingdom of heaven to achieve opulence equal to yours. You're so kind to your servants that you have accepted the withered flower garland that we have placed on your chest. You are so merciful that you neglect your eternal consort, Lakshmi, and accept our offerings as most excellent worship. As Trivikram, You raised your toe to break the shell of the universe, allowing the holy Ganga to flow down, and you captured Bali Maharaj. Bali Maharaj was torturing, not torturing, he was conquered the devatas, right up, almost up to Brahmlok. So the demigods were very pleased when Trivikram came and captured Bali Maharaj. Your lotus feet inspire fear in the demons by driving them down to hell, and fearlessness amongst your devotees by elevating them to heavenly life. All of the great demigods, beginning with Brahma, are embodied living entities, struggling painfully with one another under the strict control of your time factor. You are the cause of the maintenance, destruction of this universe. As time, you regulate the subtle and manifest states of material nature and control every living entity. So this world is controlled by time. Right? Time destroys everything, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. But that's not the case in the spiritual world. Time is a servant of the Lord at that time. But in this world, everything is controlled through the mechanism of time. So no matter how powerful one is or how desperate one is, time will change everything. The original Purush avatar, Mahavishnu, acquires his creative potency from you. So the demigods recognize the position of Krishna. Thus, with infallible energy, he impregnates material nature, producing the Mahat Tattva, from which primeval golden egg of the universe is produced. You are living with 16,000 exquisitely beautiful, aristocratic wives. Even by their messages of eager conjugal love, they are completely unable to disturb the mind and senses of your lordship. Performers of fruitive sacrifices and yogis desiring mystic power contemplate the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna to attain their materialistic objectives. But the most elevated devotees who desire liberation from the bondage of material work lovingly contemplate the Lord's lotus-like feet, because those feet are the fire that destroy all desire for sense enjoyment. So somehow or other, if we can simply get attached to the Lord and his lotus feet, automatically all other desires are destroyed. One cannot actually purify the mind by ordinary worship, penance, and other such processes. One can purify the mind, contaminated by sense gratification, only through mature faith in the mode of goodness, which arises by hearing the glories of Lord Krishna. So by hearing about Krishna constantly, we will actually rise to the platform of moral goodness, and this mature platform, and purify the mind. Therefore, intelligent persons situated in Varanashram system serve the two kinds of holy places, the nectarian rivers of the topics of Krishna and the nectarian rivers flowing from the Lord's lotus feet. So hearing and serving are very important. Hearing the topics of Krishna, serving the lotus feet. Brahma, so this is the demigod's prayers to Lord Krishna. Then Lord Brahma addressed the Lord. You have removed the burden of the earth and have re-established the principle of religion amongst pious men, distributing your glories all over the world and thus purifying the whole world. Descending into the dynasty of King Yadu, you have manifested your unique transcendental form, allowing saintly persons in the age of Kali to hear about your transcendental activities and cross over the age of the darkness of the age. You have spent 125 autumns with your devotees and have withdrawn your dynasty by the curse of the Brahmins. So if you so desire, kindly return to your abode, your own abode in the spiritual world. A very unusual request in one sense, because Brahma is saying to the Lord, you've done your job, now you can go back home. Very unusual request. And of course, the Lord is always looking for somebody to follow their order. So he followed the order of Gandhari to destroy the Yadavs. And now he's following the order of Brahma to go back to the spiritual world. He's very humble. The Lord, he listens to his devotees, the desires of his devotees. So this was the reason that he needed to go back. Lord Brahma has requested him. And why does he come here? He does things here which he can't do in the spiritual world. He enjoys it in the material world. For different reasons than we don't enjoy in the material world. We think we're enjoying, but we're not. But he comes, he enjoys fighting with the demons. And those demons are more or less his devotees anyway. That he can't do in the spiritual world. There's only, in the spiritual world, there are no demons. There's a rumor of a demon. That's all. But there are no demons because it's a spiritual world. So to actually fight, and the Lord likes to fight occasionally, he has to come to this world to actually pick up the mace and hit or enjoy the mood of fighting. He can only do that in this world. So this world has a use for Krishna, and he does enjoy it when he comes here. He makes the most of his vacation from the spiritual world. The Supreme Lord said, he accepted the prayers, Brahma's prayers and request, as having removed the burden of the earth. He had executed everything that was required by him. Of course, there is no duty for the Lord to fulfill, but he fulfills the desires of his devotees. In addition, the very Yadav dynasty in which I appeared became greatly magnified in opulence, especially in their physical strength and courage, to the extent that they threatened to devour the whole world. Thus, he removed the overly proud members of the Yadu dynasty on the pretext of the Brahman's curse. The Lord also said that when this annihilation is finished, he will visit Lord Brahma's abode en route to Vaikuntha. So this shows that the Lord is completely independent. He can come and go as he likes. It's not that he's like us, bound by birth, death, old age, and disease. He's completely free. He can move up and down as he likes. Thus addressed by the Lord of the universe, the self-born Brahma fell down in obeisances at the lotus feet of the Lord, surrounded by all the demigods. The great Brahma then returned to his personal abode. Observing terrible disturbances indicating the imminent destruction of the world, Lord Krishna called together the wise members of the Yadu dynasty and reminded them of the Brahman's curse, which is impossible to counteract. The Lord convinced them to go to Prabhar's Tirth, where they could save themselves by bathing at Prabhar's Kshetra, by offering sacrifice there to placate the forefathers and demigods, by feeding the worshipable Brahmins with various delicious foodstuffs, by bestowing opulent gifts upon them as the most suitable candidates for charity. The Lord gave an example of power of this holy place. So this is the example he gives. Once the moon was afflicted with consumption because of the curse of Daksha. So the moon would shrink, disappear practically. But by taking bath at Prabha's Kshetra, the moon was immediately freed from his sinful reaction and again resumed the waxing of his phases. The Yadus, in obedience to Krishna's desire, prepared to journey to Prabhash. So now the prayer that we said right at the beginning of this chapter falls in this category. Upon seeing and hearing the Lord's conversation with the Yadus, Uddhav approached Lord Krishna in a secluded place, offered his full obeisances, expressed his inability to tolerate separation from the Lord. Although Krishna is fully capable of counteracting the Brahman's curse against his dynasty, he wanted to conclude his earthly pastimes. And so Uddhav begged Krishna to take him with. So the Lord is going, Uddhav is requesting, please take me with you back to the spiritual world. If one tastes the nectar of Krishna's pastimes with his ears, one loses all hankering for other things. So many people do hear Krishna Katha, but they're not so interested, right? Because they haven't heard from the right source, or they haven't heard with attention the nectar of Krishna's pastimes. They just think perhaps it's some ordinary stories. Persons who engage constantly in Krishna's service while eating, sporting, sleeping, sitting, cannot tolerate separation from Krishna. Now, this was the verse that we read. They honor all kinds of remnants from Sri Krishna and thus conquer the Lord's illusory energy. Peaceful members of the renounced order attain Brahmlok after exhaustive and painful exertion. But the devotees of the Lord simply discuss Krishna amongst themselves, chant and remember his various pastimes and instructions, thus automatically cross beyond the insurmountable material energy. This is really hard to attain Brahmlok. It's exhaustive and painful exertion. Why go through all that when at the same time you simply discussing and remembering Krishna and enjoying at the same time, because his pastimes are so nectarian? Why go through so much suffering and get nothing at the end? All you're doing is going to Brahmlok. Big deal. Sukadeva Goswami said, "O Parikshit, King Parikshit, thus addressed the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, the son of Devaki, began to reply confidentially to his dear unalloyed servant, Uddhav." So that we'll take up in the next chapter. And anybody, any questions? Otherwise, we can go to the instructions by Madhusudan Prabhu. Okay, Madhusudan Prabhu.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this Prabhash is actually somewhere near in Gujarat, near Verawad, it says. You know, just not very far. So it's funny how Krishna is to tell, we're in danger here. How can you be in danger in Dwarka? And then he has to cover everybody with illusory energy and things. We have got to go to a safe place and prepare ourselves. So we go to Prabhash. Krishna's pastimes are amazing, but he has to create this to unfold, as I'm saying, you know. So instructions in chapter 6 then. In this chapter, we learn how Krishna is planning to fold up his pastimes, and in doing so, leave no residue of the Yadu dynasty. So within the Yadu dynasty, there were some who were inimical and become puffed up. And although Krishna had asked a lot of the demigods to take part in this, in his pastimes, a lot of them were actually demigods. They also wanted to go, had to be sent back to their different planets. And although they're part of, but they're all eternal associates of Krishna. And so they were being equally powerful as Krishna would be a burden. So they can actually become troublesome, or later on could be a problem. So Krishna didn't want to leave any part of the Yadu dynasty. some of them had to be inequal to Krishna in his pastimes. Also, like Uddhav also feels that he will be separated from Krishna and approaches him. In the verse, by stating, like it says in the purport that Brahmanta Karma Vartmansu, he humbly presents himself as one of the conditioned souls entangled in fruitive activities. Still, Uddhav is confident that he will certainly cross over the illusory energy because he is addicted to chanting and remembering the glorious activities and the words of Sri Krishna, Lord Krishna. So Uddhav is in the purport mentioned that, he feels quite confident. So like that, we have to follow his example and become addicted to chanting and remembering the glorious activities and words of Lord Krishna, and then we'll be quite confident that we will also cross over this illusory energy. Well, through Uddhav, we learn, but Krishna has to carry on with his pastimes, and amazing, it's how he covers everything with illusory energy. But also there's a mention of how I think Bhrigu in his previous lifetime had put his foot on the chest of Lord Vishnu, and then he had to repay, and that's how Krishna somehow, or maybe it'll come later on, how Krishna actually leaves the body, leaves the planet. So
yes, that comes.
Yeah, that comes. But in the purport, I came across how Krishna gets shot by this Jara, this. Okay, it'll come. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Any questions, any comments? Otherwise, we can call it a day. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.